What is up, guys? How's it going? Welcome back to another episode here on the Piscifun YouTube channel. We just wrapped up a morning out here on the Fox River in Pere, Wisconsin, and it was a pretty good bite. I think we landed between 20 and 30 fish, caught some on the blade bait, caught some on plastics, and so after we got off the water, it was kind of windy, got kind of crazy out there. Cody and I started to freeze our butts off a little bit, so we decided to come in here and just do a couple of videos kind of talking about what we do out here when the water's really cold. I've noticed over the years, and even when I was younger, I didn't know how to catch these fish when the water was this cold, right? I always waited for that typical spawning warm-up, and then I knew how to go out and catch them. But when the water's cold, it's a little bit different, and sometimes it takes some different tactics. So this video is specifically going to go over my top 3 baits for catching walleyes here on the Fox River when the water is cold like it is right now. So stay tuned, guys. We're gonna give you some great tips, and it's gonna help you catch more fish. All right, guys, so just to kind of let you know how this video is gonna roll, I'm gonna tell you what the technique is, how to do it, and the equipment I use for that technique. That way you get a nice, well-rounded understanding of what you need when you come out here and you go fishing in this cold water. So what I have here in my hand right now is a blade bait. Now this blade bait is a Cabela's Mean Eye Shad. I use all different kinds of brands. I've used the J&Ms from the Swamp Donkey Hut. I really like the profile of the Cabela's brand, but blade baits are ultra critical cold water baits, guys. And when I say that, I mean it's for all sorts of species. It's not just walleyes. So all around the gamut, when that water is cold, a blade bait is a very big go-to bait of mine. Now, when you're out there fishing with a blade bait, you can use all different sizes, right? So there's anything from a 1/2 ounce when you're fishing 30 feet of water up to a 3/8, which is what I normally throw. It's probably my most thrown size. And then if I get into some real slack water or some shallow water, I'll go down even to a 1/4 ounce size. So it really just depends on your depth and the current and what you need to keep that bait in a good presentation place. That being said, when you're going out with a blade bait, it's about being subtle, okay? The biggest mistake that I have seen people make is they go out and they think a blade bait is a rip and wrap, okay? A rip and wrap, you're doing these big, long, 3-4 foot strokes and you're really snapping that thing way up off the bottom. Well, with a blade bait, you're doing the exact same thing, but really small, really diminished. So what you're doing is you're just bringing that rod up to a 45 on a tight line and just giving it a little pop, okay? 6 inches to a foot, maybe a 1.5 feet, but just little pops. And basically what you're doing is just enough for this blade. It's on the bottom, it comes up and it goes vibrate, and then it falls again. And then vibrate, and it falls again. And what happens is when that bait comes up and it pulsates like that, the walleyes can feel that in their lateral line, okay? Most fish, predatory fish especially, have a very strong sense in their lateral line, and that's how they find bait fish. So this vibrates, it falls. What will happen is that walleye will come down, it will pin it to the bottom, mouthful of mud and everything, pin it to the bottom, and then when you go to hop it the next time, you're gonna feel weight, and that's when you're gonna do the hook set. So it's gonna feel awkward at first. It's kind of a double clutch hook set because you're going to hop it, and then there's weight there. So that is how I use a blade bait. Those little hops, like I said, are going to be very deadly in this cold water. Now, besides the actual blade bait, when I use this, I'm using a fluorocarbon leader, and generally I use from 12 to 14 pound test. And now the reason I use that, I know you're thinking, oh, walleyes, well, it's gotta be something, light and finesse. Well, these are big walleyes. So when we go to snap that bait up off the bottom and that walleye pins it, you wanna make sure that you have enough of a fluorocarbon leader to not break off on the hook set. And additionally, you want a stiff leader, because what happens a lot of times when you're hopping this bait is it will flip up onto itself and it will actually hook the line, and it'll end up looking like that. And we don't want that, right? We're not gonna be able to feel that vibration when it does that. So this stiffer leader actually helps stop this from flipping upside down that way. Then I use a 10-pound braid mainline, and you can really use anything you want, but a 2000 or 3000 spinning reel is gonna be your best. So here I have a Viper X 3000, very smooth reel. But again, 2000, 3000, both will work great. And then the rod is a 6'10" medium, and this is a Piscifun Serpent series. So this is my rod of choice for mostly all of my walleye fishing. And then I will talk to you about another rod that I like to use when we get into some more baits. All right, guys, the next one on our list is the hair jig, okay? The hair jig is as old as time. If you talk to any older fishermen, they will tell you how prolific hair jigs have been for decades, okay? But what tends to happen, and what I've noticed happens, is a lot of people will forget about these older baits, and they'll shy away from them because of the craze of plastics and cranks and all the new flashy style baits that catch fishermen's eye. but this one is tried and true, and in cold water, besides a blade bait, this is my second go-to when I'm out here fishing on the Fox River. Now you notice this color is a nice dark black, and then you have that purple as well in there. So that black and purple is going to be very visible to those fish. Gives it a nice dark outline, and the nice thing is this color is very neutral. You can use this on sunny days, on cloudy days. It works great no matter what the weather is like, and it just flat out catches fish when the water is cold. Now you'll notice here that if I kind of shed some of this hair, that there's another hook sitting back there. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's another hook sitting back there. That is called a stinger hook. Now what happens a lot of times in cold water situations is walleyes will follow this and they will nip at the back of the hair like this. Well, as you can see, if they do that, they're completely missing the hook. But you've got that stinger back here for them to get caught on. So definitely would highly recommend putting a stinger on there. Also, if you're looking for some scent and a little extra holding power for those fish, you can stick an extra large fathead on there as well, and that will give a little bit more smell to that bait for when those walleyes come down and they pop it. Same thing as far as the leader goes, 12 to 14 pound fluorocarbon leader. And for this one, I'm actually using a different rod. So I'm using same series, it's a Serpent, but this one is the 7'2" medium light. And the reason I like to do that is because of the way you fish this bait. Instead of doing like a vertical hop, you're almost doing like a pop and pull. And what happens is as that bait comes through, that walleye trails it and then sucks it in. So there's not as much of a pinning thump as there is just a little tick. So this medium light rod is gonna allow you to feel that bite a lot better than that medium. Same thing when it comes to the reel, 2000, 3000. This one is a 2000 Carbon X. Both will work perfectly. The big thing is having that good drag system. So when that fish bites, you're able to keep it pinned and get it in the boat. All right, guys, so last but not least in my top 3 baits is going to be the jerkbait. Now, a lot of people don't throw jerkbaits for walleyes, but I can tell you up here in Green Bay, on these tributaries, jerkbaits are extremely deadly ways to fish for them. Now, the jerkbaits really come in handy when those fish are coming out of that channel and they start to move up into the flats. Now, you'll notice the lip on this jerkbait. This is actually a deep diving 110 from Megabass. So this bait will actually dive down to about 7 or 8 feet depending on the current and how hard you're ripping. As far as the line, in this situation, I have a casting reel right here, and I'm giving you guys a little sneak peek. This is actually a prototype of a reel that we have coming out in about a month. So I'm not gonna show you any longer because I don't wanna get in trouble. But this is a reel you guys are definitely gonna wanna keep your eye out looking for. The reason I choose that reel is because it can bomb this little jerkbait a long ways on this 12-pound fluorocarbon. Now, the reason I don't use braid for this scenario is that braid generally floats, okay? And for a lure like this, we want fluorocarbon because it's sinking, and because this is suspending, what it'll do is it'll actually give it just a really slow sink. So it basically looks like a dying bait fish, or in this case, a dying perch on the fall. And those big walleyes that are sitting up on those flats that are feeding, they will come up on the paws and they will absolutely destroy this jerkbait. So the big thing to pay attention to, guys, is in cold water, you always have to dictate your timing of your paws. So the colder the water, the longer the paws, and the more subtle you're fishing this jerkbait. So in cold water, when I'm talking 35 to 45 degrees, you might be rip, and then literally 1 1000, 2 1000. You're counting up to 7 or 8 counts when the water's that cold. Now, as the water warms up, then you're gonna get a little bit more erratic, a little bit faster, a little bit less pauses because those fish are hungry, they're moving, they're chasing, and then they're gonna chase down that jerkbait a little bit more aggressively. But no doubt in my mind, a jerkbait is a deadly bait for those Fox River walleyes out here. And this pattern right here, you'll see it has a little bit of a shimmer. It's got almost like a gold to it, but it also has that perch pattern. So beautiful pattern, beautiful color for out here on the Fox. So if you have not tried jerkbait fishing, I would definitely give it a shot. It is super deadly, and don't forget to give it a try at night, because that's when a lot of the big mamas get caught, at night on a jerkbait. All right, so those were my personal top 3 cold water baits when you're out here on the Fox River and you're chasing these big Green Bay walleyes. Now, obviously, there are many different baits you can use to catch fish. You can use plastics, live bait, all sorts of different baits. There's a lot of things you can catch fish on in cold water. That being said, over the years, and not just from my experience, but from my friends who are walleye anglers, I have pro walleye angler friends, I've learned so much, and these, in my opinion, are the top 3 baits that are gonna catch you the biggest fish during this cold water period. Now, as the water warms up, you can still use these baits, but you're gonna do it a little bit differently. You might be a little bit more erratic, you're not gonna be as subtle, and you're gonna try to trigger those instincts of those feeding fish as they get ready to spawn. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope these tips help you. I hope you are now able to come out here to Pere on the Fox River and enjoy some spring walleye fishing, and you can use these techniques and go out and pound some of these big walleyes. If you guys have not yet, go down, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit the notification bell. We have got a pretty awesome giveaway coming up here in the next couple of weeks, and you want to make sure that when that video drops here on YouTube that you are one of the first ones to be notified so you can jump in on that giveaway and get that opportunity to win that awesome prize that we have coming. Guys, go down below if you have ever fished the Fox. Let me know what your favorite lures are for cold water. Drop it down in the comments, and also don't forget to smash that like button as well. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.